All right, everybody. It is Thursday night, January 5th, 2023. Happy New Year. This is the Mindless Wrestling Podcast, part of the Chairshot Radio Network. I am one of your hosts, the man with the award-winning beard, DJ. I'm going to wrap around the room here and introduce this cast of characters we have here on the podcast tonight, starting with the host of the Rob the Genius podcast, the Minister of Truth, the Father of Facts and Figures, the Deacon of Data, the official shoot bear of the Mindless Wrestling Podcast, and the man with the golden shovel, Mr. Rob. Happy New Year. How are you?
I'm doing very well today. And very well.
Yeah, I'm sure you are. And we're going to get to that in just a few moments. We're going to rip the Band-Aid off early here tonight. Woo! And hailing from Cloud 9 in the Purple Haze. I think I did that backwards, but I don't care. A man destined to go through a barbershop window and a retail worker, Bucky's tag team partner, Jason. Happy New Year, Bubba.
Happy New Year, fellas.
All right. And sitting fourth chair tonight, the fourth member of this show officially. We made it official a few weeks back. You know, just a good brother to the show, man with the keys to the kingdom and an ear to the ground, a man who has never met a debate he didn't like. The yin to Rob's yang and a pain in Rob's ass.
Yes.
Mr. Rey Ca, welcome back to the show, sir.
I'm so glad that I found my purpose in life. It irritates the hell out of my big brother.
and that is officially part of your introduction to the show, sir. You are a fly in the ointment and a pain in Rob's ass.
I love it. That gives me so much joy.
Look at the y'all should see the smile on the man's face right now.
Oh, what's up,
amazing.
Oh man, yes. Hey Rob, what's up, big dog?
I'm doing very well. This has been a very good week for me.
Yeah. Rob's had Rob got fed last week. Last Friday night, Rob got fed. We're going to talk about that in just a minute. I do want to promote, we had a great kickoff show here before we even went live for the podcast. I'm going to have that available on the YouTube channel, hopefully this weekend. Look us up. It's the Mindless Wrestling Podcast on YouTube. And, check out all the videos we've got there, as well as the pre-show huddle we did this week. We got a lot to talk about. Speaking of being fed, wrestling fans got absolutely fed over the last 5 to 7 days. We had, SmackDown from last week, which was the return and the one match that John Cena had to wrap up 2022. We had, a huge return that night as well that Rob is going to get into and run his victory lap while the rest of us, drink heavily. And we had Wrestle Kingdom 48 hours ago. Huge news to talk about there. And then because the world of professional wrestling never sleeps, Vince McMahon is at it again. We're going to talk a little bit about that tonight, much to Jason's chagrin. But let's start with Charlotte Flair. Rob has been in just shoot tears for the last few months. Ever since she got married and went on like a 6-month honeymoon, Rob has been begging for his queen to come back every week. Every week he wraps up the show. Charlotte, please come back. Charlotte, please come back. And Friday night, Charlotte came back, and I'm going to let Rob take the wheel here. She came back in huge, spectacular fashion.
Does anybody have the boo button?
Oh,
I need to get a sound bar for this. I got to get with Tunney because he's got all this software for me. I need to get a working sound bar so that, because believe me, I've got some great ideas for some sound bars for this show.
Before Rob launches into his, whatever we're about to witness, I did want to add one little addendum that as things went on, even the last couple months, I was like, Charlotte, please come back. We do need you. Please come back.
There was a real conversation to be had about that, yes. But let Rob have
exactly. So let Rob have his moment, and then we're going to talk a little bit about Charlotte because I agree that SmackDown women's roster has needed Charlotte Flair. Rob, the floor is yours.
Well, it's been a long, almost 8 months, and
why you got the Quiet Storm voice on, bro?
Because trust me, I'm going to be going up here. Okay, you got to build. You got
to start off Barry White and work his way up.
That's right. But
hey everybody, it's
right. But no, it has been a long 7, almost 8 months, and part of it was because she lost the round at Backlash, and we knew she was going to be gone for a little while. We knew she was going to get married. But I think everybody figured she'd wouldn't be gone this long. And so a few months went. SummerSlam came around, and she is Miss SummerSlam. She has not lost a match at SummerSlam ever. And so SummerSlam is not the same without her on the show. And that came and went, and that was, it was a little difficult, but we got through it. And then, the months kept going, and it kept going, and it started it was hard, fellas. It was really hard.
He may start crying right now.
Really hard.
He's emotional. Look at him.
And then Extreme Rules comes around, and there was people saying, well, maybe she'll come back and attack Ronda after the match is over, and then that doesn't happen. And then then look, we started doing this ridiculous fantasy booking for War Games, and looking back, it was totally utterly ridiculous. Trying to fit her into the match some kind of way. Because there was no sensible way to fit her into that. We were just being ridiculous fantasy booking, and so that came and went. And I looked at the calendar. I was like, well, December is usually nothing happens in December, so okay. Looks like it probably won't be till January. Probably won't be a Royal Rumble. Man, it's a long time, and it just SmackDown wasn't the same, and. So I was thinking, when they made this, once so Cena's coming back for this episode of SmackDown, so obviously it's a big deal. And I thought, you know what? Maybe she'll be there. And because they had the match with announcer Ronda and Raquel, and so I figured, okay, well, Raquel's not going to win the title, right? And so I figured, okay, we'll do the match, and maybe she'll come out and attack Ronda. Maybe she'll challenge Ronda, for. And so they do the match, and the match was really good, by the way. And kudos to both of them.
Pausing for a minute, I loved the finish to that Raquel and Ronda match, where Raquel's up on the second rope and she's holding. Ronda's got her in the submission, and just that she finally gives out. Just perfection. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but the finish to that match was perfection.
And so I'm like, okay, so once that was over. And then, Ronda and Shane are standing in the ring. And that's when because, if they're standing in the ring after the match is over, then that's usually a sign that something might be happening. So I was thinking, okay, well, let's see what happens. Let's see what happens here. This might be it. And then the music hits, and I'm like, yes, this is it. Yay. And, and it's new music, by the way. And she's got new ring gear on. And she comes out there. And I looked at the clock and I was like, you know what? We got a lot of time left in this show. We got it right. and so when Ronda was like, well, you want to challenge me for SummerSlam or the Royal Rumble? And then he said, no, I'm challenging you tonight. I was like, yes, there we go. Let's go. Yes. Because I knew at that point, I was like, okay, either Ronda's going to bail. But if she doesn't, then we know what time it is. And and then Ronda said, let's go. And again, it's like Charlotte landed like the best big boot of her entire career.
That was incredible. I popped so hard.
Yeah. And
that was Nash like. That thing was wild.
Yeah. And then she knocked Shayna down off the apron, and and at that point, I was jumping. I was like, because I was like, okay, yeah, this is it. Because I knew at that point, you knew it was coming. And she went for the spear, and then that was a real nice counter that they did actually. Ronda rolled through and went for the armbar. And then she rolled her over and got the 3 count, and I was just ecstatic. And then look around the crowd and people cheering, right? Because. She's a heel most of the time. So when she does win, that means she beat somebody's, favorite person or something. And, and there have been times where she's won the title and then people have cheered, like when she put down the superhero lady. But
why you gotta keep bringing that up?
But anyway,
bro, that's like 18 months ago. Come on, now she's not even a superhero no more.
But anyway. So yeah, just to see that happen and to just. oh man, it was just a wonderful thing because you know and this was because the last few times where she's won a title, there are always people complaining and and all this stuff, and it kind of takes some of the joy out of the moment, and so this time I didn't care. I mean, it was nice to see all those people cheering and everything, but even I didn't care. I was like, no, we're enjoying this. We're gonna celebrate this one, okay? And because it wasn't expected, and I might add, this was the anniversary of Ronda losing to, I think it was Amanda Nunes. So,
Really?
Was it really?
yeah, I didn't find out until afterwards. Yeah, but
No, it had to be Holly Holm because that was the one that ran her away.
Holly Holmes, Holly Holmes one that kicked her right out of UFC, wasn't it?
Yeah. Well, but it was one of those two.
Both whooped her.
They both beat her, but I think Holly Holm was
They were both pretty one-sided.
Yeah, and so I was just, it was, it was a wonderful evening, and and again, but of course there are people complaining, but and look, this is all I'm going to say because now it's time. Now it's time. Okay, I did the polite thing there okay. Now it's time. Okay, okay, because some of you people out there, I got some news for you. Okay. When Trish Stratus wanted to have one more match, she called Vince McMahon and asked for the 14 times women's champion. Okay, Vince didn't suggest it to her. She said out of her own mouth that she called Vince McMahon and asked for her. Okay. She didn't ask for none of y'all's little favorites. She didn't ask for the boss. Okay. She didn't ask for the role model. She didn't ask for the man. Okay. She didn't ask for the empress. Okay. No. Okay. She asked for one person. Okay. And you can say, well, Trish Stratus is, an old, Hall of Famer or whatever. Okay. Well, just last week, the newest kind of big star in women's wrestling was asked if you could defend your title against anybody outside of the company you work for, who would it be? And who did Jade Cargill say? Who did she say?
Bianca Belair.
No.
Oh.
She did not. She mentioned
China.
No.
I got to pull my pants legs up because it's getting thick.
Okay.
It's getting real deep in here. I got to pull my pants legs up.
She said she wanted the now 14-time women's champion. That's who she said. Okay. Didn't ask for nobody. Didn't name nobody else. Okay. Didn't say, well, this person and no. She named one person. Okay. Okay. And that's not it. Because, there's some other, ladies who are retired now who were asked, Jazz, who should be in the WWE Hall of Fame, had been asked before, who would she want to come back and wrestle? She said the 14-time women's champion. Okay. Didn't name nobody else. Okay. So you know what? So while y'all are out here, y'all are complaining, y'all are out here hating, y'all are all talking all this nonsense. Okay,
somebody's a wankster, clearly.
So
this guy.
So listen, a lot of these women wrestlers who y'all look up to and y'all admire and y'all put on, and say, oh, they're so great. When they get asked who they would want to wrestle, okay, who do they tell you? Okay. And no, they don't always just say her, but plenty of them do. Plenty of them, a whole lot of them, that's the first name to come out their mouth. Okay. So if you're wondering why she got to win another one, that's why. Okay. That's why. Okay. That's why we got 14. That's why she's got 14. Okay. And however many come after this one, that's why she's gonna get those two. Okay. And we're gonna talk about Sasha Banks later, but we who? You wanna know the real reason why Sasha Banks is in New Japan right now? You wanna know the real reason? You wanna know the real reason?
Oh,
I'm gonna tell you the real reason, okay?
Oh,
what's the real reason, Rob?
because she got tired of getting beat like a drum by the 14-time women's champion.
Oh, we're going to talk about that in a little bit.
Okay, that's why. She's tired of taking L's. She can't take it no more. Okay, that's why she left.
Wow.
Oh, boy.
And there's your golden shovel moment of the night, ladies and gentlemen.
Okay.
Wow.
So let me wrap around the room here real quick because I want to get your opinions. It was definitely a shocking moment. Charlotte Flair winning the SmackDown Women's Championship. I think we had a discussion on this podcast several months ago, and none of us thought that they would run back her and Ronda. We really thought that Ronda was moving on to other things and that Charlotte would end up looking for someone else to kind of pick apart. I find it interesting that they went back to her and Ronda. Mr. Cash, starting off the new year with a new SmackDown Women's Champion. Good move, bad move, indifferent about the move? What do you think?
Well, the show was the biggest show of the year, and ironic, it was the last show of the year. But when you got a show with that much gravitas, you got Roman, Sami, KO, Cena on the show. You've built it up for weeks. Something like that is a perfect vehicle. That was the most watched television program in wrestling all year. So that was the time to reintroduce her to all of those names and all those people. So I'm fine with the change. Like, I don't mind TV title changes. Changes on television as long as it's not too frequent. But so my three quick thoughts on that were, number one, man, it's hilarious to me how much people really hated Ronda so much that they're clamoring for Charlotte now. That's hilarious to me. When just 6 months ago they were begging for her to leave. Absence makes the heart grow fonder. Clearly. Number two, I'm really glad she didn't return in the Rumble, given her previous Rumble runs and the fact that last year's Rumble winners were so, let's say, lackluster, that it would have really hurt that match. And number three, now we can finally start preparing for WrestleMania, because we couldn't prepare for WrestleMania without Charlotte because she was going to have a big match.
Yeah.
Or a match of consequence. I mean, not say big match. You would have a match of consequence on the show. So now we can start preparing for that. And if I may throw out a name for you, I wouldn't mind seeing Charlotte and Naomi going at it at WrestleMania. They never got a chance to finish their little mini feud. And Naomi's gonna have a lot of gravitas when she finally comes back. But no, I'm happy for Charlotte. She deserved that moment because, Rob, she's a fantastic wrestler. She's one of the greatest ever, if not the greatest women's wrestler ever, one of the greatest wrestlers ever. But she gets old quick to a lot of fans. And Charlotte is not a person who does well in adding to her act. It's basically this, once she got this act, it's been basically the same. Now she's always going to deliver from a B+ to A+ every time. But there's no, you look at a guy like Seth Rollins, or even you look at someone like Becky, and I don't want to compare the two because I know the Peter Griffin and the Big Chicken relationship but I think the thing that kills people with her isn't just the LOL Charlotte wins, but it's the fact that she's the same person every time. Heel Charlotte, face Charlotte, it's always just the same Charlotte. And so the fact that there was a little minuscule change, the music's different, the entrance is different, the clothes, even though I didn't fuck with the clothes, that's different. We have some difference now. She deserved a moment like that for the fans to give her the flowers that she's earned. I just hope that we don't go right back to the same game with Charlotte, where 3 weeks from now, when she's still doing the same things, we're going to get back to, here we go. Because she's too talented, and that roster and that entire division needs better and deserves better, and she is the anchor for that division. Should be. So I just hope it works out how they're hoping it's going to work out. I'm not convinced it will.
Okay. Jason, your thoughts?
So I was amazed that Rob, in his giant soliloquy, didn't say that, the exclamation point part of this, and, Ray got into it a little bit. Boy, the end of that, the last couple months of that Ronda reign have been not great, to say the least.
The match has been good, but the reign hasn't been good, yeah.
Exactly. The overall experience has been less than ideal.
Absolutely.
So I think, especially with the new coat of paint in terms of the music and the gear, and in my opinion, a slightly different character and presentation, I feel the same way that I feel about her, and I'm not saying it's going to go this way, but I'm feeling the same way about her right now that I felt about Roman Reigns day one when he appeared at SummerSlam. Before we knew he was a heel, before we knew he was with Heyman, we knew something was fuck different. Like, pardon my language, but like, holy Moses, there has been a tectonic shift with this man. And I felt that way with her. Simply because she's never been, I mean, the music obviously helped and the gear helped with the whole, she wants to be, she's gonna be the Thanos of that division. And you know, the music definitely helped. It's more dramatic. It's more akin to Roman's. So again, I'm not saying she's going to enter her tribal chief era, but she's looking like she's going to enter her tribal chief era. So if we get that, and I agree with you, Ray, a character that challenges her and asks her to do more that she absolutely friggin' can because she's very talented, then yes, I am not only relieved that we're either going to be spared Ronda entirely, or Ronda is going to go off and do something with Shayna, whether it's fighting for each other or fighting for the tag titles, exactly. Then great. If we get one more program with her and Ronda, fine, whatever. But we'll find out, I guess. But yeah, I just think that day one, I'm very, very intrigued. Now, if she comes out on Friday and just, woo, 14 time, woo! All right, well, what are we doing?
Very likely.
I don't know, though, because I felt like she was, again, from the very small sample size,
92% of households that start the year with Peloton are still active a year later.
All because of a fancy bike?
It's not just a bike. Peloton makes treadmills, too.
All treadmills are the same.
Our treadmills can adjust speed and incline automatically, so you never break your stride. Whether you're squeezing in a power walk or training for a marathon, Peloton can help you achieve your fitness goals. 92% stick with it. So can you. Try the Peloton Tread risk-free with the 30-day home trial. New members only. Not available in remote locations. See additional terms at onepeloton.com/home-trial.
She was as babyface as I've ever seen her, because this time it didn't feel forced, because she also felt like she was, no, I am the Thanos of this division. I am the be-all, end-all. But I'm also a good guy because I'm kicking the bad guy's butt. So I just got a whole new vibe from her, so I'm very optimistic. And yes, maybe it is just absence makes a heart go fonder, because goddamn was it good to see that woman.
It was good to see her. And she spent so much time in Mexico with the Ingobernables, with her husband, with Rush, with Dragon Lee, with Jalisco, with all of these guys. And all of these people, even I don't know their wives or wrestlers too. I don't know their names, forgive me. But in that world, and we've already seen her try to take some of Andrade's moves with the fake elbow, with the fake boot to the elbow and the double moon. So if she could take some of that, I don't give up attitude that the Ingobernables have, that may help her get that different distinction. Quick tangent real fast, because I know we want to finish this. Can we post some out for the end of the CFO's era? Because like the last vestiges of all the CFO's themes are dying. And when what's the song called? Retribution or whatever? Recognition. When I saw that was gone, I was like, well, what is it left? It's just Becky. It's the only one still rocking with it. It hurts my heart because I love that era. I think that's the best era of music we've had since Jim Johnston.
Yeah.
I'm not crazy about the theme, but themes were. Every theme ain't gonna be as good as Roman's the second you hear it.
Yeah,
this has got to grow on you.
This one really did. I mean, she did the same thing that Daniel Bryan did. She did the same thing. Include the little piece of classical music at the beginning, and then just go to your new theme.
Well, she can't. Unfortunately, because she's a Flair, she can't live without that Ric Flair.
No, sure.
Unfortunately, yeah, no, she shouldn't. You're right, absolutely.
She shouldn't, and that's
Natalya should never have the screech from Bret Hart. You're right. It is what it is.
It's the gravitas. You're bringing your generational. You absolutely bring it in. That's woman's the tribal chief. It's Who's he the tribal chief of? Well, you know.
Yeah.
And let me just, as far as, the way she's been booked in the past, because I have my little corners of, big Charlotte fans that I talk to on the internet. And one of the biggest issues we've always had is that Vince McMahon, basically, Vince forced, the babyface act multiple times with her. And even as she has very openly said that she never thought it was a good idea, because she always thought that people were going to resent her for being Ric Flair's daughter, but Vince did not. But Vince, again, multiple times tried to make a baby and tried to make a, almost a sympathetic baby face out of her.
Yeah,
which
he tried to make her a white meat, oh shucks baby face, and it's just
that's what Vince believes in, yeah.
But yeah, you can't do that with the jet flying, wilding style and profiling guy's daughter.
It's hilarious to me that Vince is the guy that was the one that found the thing in people and allowed them to take it out. And then when those guys left, he was like, "Nah, son, everybody's gonna be the same dude."
Yeah.
And
that's we're going to get on that here in a minute. I swear, and I said that about Vince McMahon here maybe a few weeks ago. Even the best creative minds eventually run out of steam, and they may have moments of brilliance, but those moments become fewer and more far between the older they get. You know, and after 40 years of doing stuff, eventually you run out of ideas and you start either recycling or you just get into a cycle of doing the same thing over and over again. And that's what he did with Charlotte. I do firmly believe Charlotte is a heel wrestler. Not only because of her lineage, but because there's no way with a heel or with a baby face, a lot of times that baby face is going to be punching up. You've always got the big threat looming overhead, and you've got to punch up. Charlotte is not a punch-up wrestler. No. Charlotte, aside with the exception of a very small handful of women with fingers left over, Charlotte towers over that entire women's division.
Literally.
She towers over them. Not only in stature, but in ability, okay? And that's not a knock on any of the other girls. There are some fantastic women wrestlers in WWE. But most of that roster, when you stand them side by side with Charlotte, as Rob would say, they look less than. Not only in stature, but in ability. Charlotte Flair has to be a heel. I'm very, very intrigued if they go pure babyface with her, how they're going to do it. I don't think it's going to last long. I don't think it's going to work well, but I am intrigued because while I'm not a Rob level Charlotte fan, I have my favorites. She's probably in my top 3. I will, with a straight face, look at you and tell you she is probably the best women's wrestler in the world and probably in the top 10 best wrestlers in the world. She's that good. Even if she's not my favorite, she's that good. And so for her to be a babyface is going to be very intriguing to me. And I want to see more of her and Ronda because when we talk, we equated her somewhat to the tribal chief. While Ronda as a worker is not on Brock's level, that feud is their Roman and Brock. I love the chemistry between Ronda and Charlotte. I feel like when I watch the two of them against each other, I feel like there's real animosity. And this is all I ever ask from a wrestling match is that I feel like these people genuinely hate each other. And I feel that. There's actual competition between the two of them. And what was it? 3-4 years ago when we had the triple threat main event with Charlotte, Becky, and Ronda. Mm-hmm. Everybody kept saying, the whole internet, and we've talked about this on the show, the internet feels like they got robbed of Becky and Ronda. I, at the time, was the biggest Becky mark. I did not want Becky and Ronda one-on-one. I want Charlotte and Ronda one-on-one again because I feel like the chemistry between the two of them, not only from a character standpoint, but from an in-ring standpoint, is genuine. It's real, and I love the art that the two of them make in the ring.
I'll tell you this, if she's going to be a white meat baby face, like baby face, they need to go back to Rebel War or whatever his name is and get her new theme music.
And because Ronda is who Ronda is, like save for maybe one or two other women, she's the one woman that Charlotte Flair can believably have to punch up against.
The one thing I want Charlotte to realize, and this may not be a Charlotte problem, this may be a management problem, which we know Vince had his misgivings, shall we say. As I'd really like for her or the package to realize that we live in a world now where you can still do heelish things and be cheered.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to be.
She knows that.
I hope she does.
Oh no, she does. She does.
The only reason I'm saying it the way I'm saying it that way, because I agree with you. I think she does. I think Ashley Flair knows, but the only reason I'm saying that is because, in her times as a babyface, you can see her trying to pander. When the thing that makes her dope is the fact that my favorite thing about Charlotte, the whole package of Charlotte. Granted, everything Friday changed the package is a new package now, but my favorite thing about her package was when she came to the ring, she would force the ref to come and pull the ropes down for her. Because she had this air of, I don't care if I'm fighting for you, against you, with you or not. I am better than all of y'all. I was born better than all of y'all. And I think that was the dopest thing about her, because, her daddy used to do that. But she took it in a way and she flipped it differently, like she did the figure 4, figure 8. She upped it. Yeah. So she could find a way to keep that energy and just allow and work it into, just fight the bad guys, because you don't have to be. Look at what Seth is doing right now. Seth is pandering to the crowd in character because of the chants, but he's still doing the same shit he was doing when he was a heel.
Yeah. At this point, Seth Rollins is not a babyface, but he is a protagonist.
Yeah, and I said that last episode. I said Seth has made such a
and hug your ass. That's the greatest point I've heard maybe ever in a podcast.
That's
There's a difference between babyface and protagonist. Major difference.
Yeah. And the crowd didn't accept it, but it's the same thing that everything Roman was post. This is my yard now.
Yes, sir.
I don't give a fuck. Yeah. I'm just gonna beat up the bad guys. That's what I do.
And let me just
that's when people started to turn the corner with Roman. Yeah, and they never really got there, but it helped. And I think the Charlotte is very much, if she slots into that role where she is just the protagonist who's also not afraid to, punch down if little Liv Morgan or somebody decides to come punching up. I think there's a whole, again, this is a whole, her whole presentation was a perfect day one of a new character.
And let me just add, because one of our other, ongoing frustrations was that Vince would never go all the way with that. Vince was always cutting her legs out from under her after she would win something.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. She wins the title and she would cash in on. One time it was the next day, one time it was literally 5 minutes later. One time, before WrestleMania 35, they, had her beat Asuka for the SmackDown Women's title, and the only reason was so that they could have 2 titles in the main event, and that did her no favors at all. And in fact, it got people pissed off at Ashley, okay, not at Charlotte, because people thought that she went, that she threw a tantrum or something, and. And then there are other times where, and then, like the belt swap thing, right? Again, she was having a really good run as Raw Women's Champion, and, she got drafted to SmackDown, and Becky got drafted to Raw, and the belt swap thing, again, that brought down heat on the person, right?
I hated the concept of a belt swap.
Right. And then
it's so stupid.
Yes, but Vince was always doing things like that.
The problem was, it worked when the New Day and the Street Profits did it because it was a comedic thing.
And it was a tag team title.
It was tag team titles, and it was comedic in the sense of, oh, let's do this. You can't make that a real segment in the ring in front of people. It just was.
No, you should have just.
It's as stupid as when Cody did that damn weigh-in against a go-go.
Right.
Like, you're such a lack of forethought.
Yeah, and
they just opened the show one day and their belts are different colors now.
And
just no sell it and just she's the Raw Women's Champion, she's the SmackDown Women's Champion.
You can acknowledge it, but it doesn't have to be in the ring.
But
Right.
it's
like, oh, hey, they swapped. Cool.
but Vince, yeah, I mean, the Vince cut her legs out from under her a whole
Yes,
lot
he
of
did.
times, and it's almost like he felt like just giving her the title victory was enough, and didn't need to do anything. Didn't need.
He definitely wanted 16.
Oh yeah, I mean that's fine, but
and all that stuff. She doesn't care, but yeah, he definitely.
No, I think she cares.
She cares now. No, she's been saying
now she cares. Now she understands.
Well, because
she never wanted to wrestle, so she's had to learn to love this.
And also, and she said now that she's close, it does. Right. It is starting to matter. But when she was on number 2, she wasn't thinking about 16. But
yeah, agreed.
But Vince is, he repeatedly just cut her legs out from under her.
I feel like 10 of those world championships came within a 6-month period of time.
Well, right. And because I mean, and
from under her, and then he'd give her the belt back in like 2 months.
Exactly, and then because remember Bayley cashed in on her, and then 5 months later she beats Bayley for the same title, and then Bayley beats her for it 5 days later.
The biggest failure of the Bayley thing was Charlotte had a streak where she had never lost a pay-per-view, and she was going into WrestleMania, the WrestleMania where it was her, Nia, Bayley, and Sasha.
Yeah,
and Bayley was clearly going to be the person coming out of there on top. But they beat her in the February pay-per-view. They let Bayley beat Charlotte in the February pay-per-view instead of letting her beat her at Mania.
Right.
That was the Orlando Mania. Had they let that happen in Orlando, that would have been a much bigger deal, and maybe it would have mattered. It would have meant something. But because this happened at random as No Way Out, Elimination Chamber,
it was a fast lane.
Whatever.
Yeah, Bayley, I mean.
Fast lane. Yeah, that's right, because that was the fast lane of Mania. It just made it hurt Bayley. It ruined that match because everybody knew Bayley wasn't gonna lose that soon, right? That's conventional wisdom, and Charlotte just won it back anyway. Goes back to that conversation we have about Reigns in the pre-show. No disrespect to Charlotte, and I could say the same thing about Cena, Randy, a lot of people. You're a super fan, so I acknowledge that and respect that. But the majority of regular wrestling watchers, is there a Charlotte reign that you remember? Not even remember fondly, just remember. And I'm not talking about, she held the belt this time. I'm talking about, tell me the feuds and the matches she had in this reign.
Honestly, I can't come up with I can name good matches. I can isolate matches and say they were really good. But if I look at a reign like Gunther's current IC reign, obviously Roman Reigns' Tribal Chief reign,
sure.
I can't compare anything that, and again, not her fault. This is a booking thing. Yeah. I cannot find a period in time where I looked at Charlotte and went, yeah, that whole time period was awesome.
I can tell you everything from Bayley's year-long run. I can tell you all of that because that reign was one of the best women's reigns I've ever seen. And that was in the pandemic era. So that was in front of no fans.
And trust me, that has been a long sore spot. And because it often feels like Vince just felt like, well, she doesn't need that.
Yeah.
Right. She's and when we don't, we just.
This was Vince's short-sightedness. I think he looked at her and went, damn it, that's Ric Flair's daughter. She'll be fine.
But
exactly.
Also, we also talked about the way people are listed. Jason mentioned all the pillars, right? Sorry to use AEW term, guys, but I think this is in studying Vince all these years. When you look at a person that is like the pillar of the company, not like a Shawn or a Brett or a Orton or a Bryan. I'm talking like Rock, Austin, Hogan. It's either you're gonna have the title forever or for a short amount of time. There's no middle ground.
Right.
Because you're going to have the title forever to cement that you're the best, or you're going to have it for a small amount of time as a springboard for somebody or something else. And I think Charlotte has run into that way too much.
Oh yeah, they have. And she is, she's been the person that a bunch of people got their big moments off of. And let me just say,
Carmella twice.
Well, so there's that. And I guess what's frustrating about that though is not that it happens, right? Because that's fine, but it's that it happens, but she doesn't get appreciated for it, and there are other people where all they got to do is they lose one match to somebody, and it's like, oh, you put them over, you elevated them, you made their career, right? And and a bunch of people have gotten their big moments off of her, and all we hear is, oh, well, Charlotte doesn't put anybody over.
Yeah. I'm so sick of the nepotism argument when it comes to Charlotte Flair. It just drives me insane, because if nepotism was really driving Charlotte Flair's career, where the fuck is David Flair? Like, if Charlotte Flair wasn't the athlete that she is, if she didn't absorb this business and become the worker that she is, she would not be a 14-time women's champion. And I'm sorry, it's just not going to happen like that. I'm sorry.
David Flair's real nepotism, because he didn't even know how to take a bump when he got hired.
Absolutely. David Flair was nepotism.
Yeah.
But yeah, where is he today? The guy, he just never picked it up, and Charlotte absorbed it. She became a sponge, and she's so good. Like I said, I'm not a super fan, but I will freely and openly admit how goddamn good Charlotte Flair is, and she's deserved every moment that she's got, and she has not deserved a lot of the hatred that she's got.
Wasn't the takeover match with Natty officially like her 5th or 6th match or something ever?
Yeah, the NXT match.
With
Natty.
It wasn't that she hadn't had that many when I don't know which one it was, but
it wasn't Braun Breaker like 3rd, but it was something like it was still in a small amount of numbers.
She wasn't very far into double digits, if she was into double digits at all.
Yeah, and
but still, we've the only thing that really her last name got her, and really anybody, is probably, even if she didn't use them, a 2nd, 3rd, 4th chance that somebody without the last name wouldn't get one.
Well, it got her signed. Yeah, it got her signed. It
got her an opportunity, but I firmly believe that if she just didn't have it, she wouldn't be where she's at now.
Right, and that's
I mean, there are hundreds of cases like that. Like, just there's a billion. I don't want to bury anybody.
Tell me all about all the world championships that Curtis Axel won because he was Mr. Perfect's kid.
Right.
Nepotism. Why haven't we signed Scott Hall's kid yet? I mean,
ooh, that's a good point.
Come on,
he should have been signed.
Yeah,
he was an asshole, but
I hear he's a little difficult, but still. It's Scott Hall's kid, and he looks like $1 million. Have you seen the kid? I mean, the last time I saw him, he looked like him. Huh?
He's a decently good worker. You don't live in a dojo in Japan for 3 years, and you don't figure out how.
You got to pick something up, or they'll throw you out. They're not going to keep you at the dojo.
Yep.
Well, okay. To be fair, the answers are all right here. He's still Scott Hall's kid, but hey, he's kind of an asshole. Maybe when he straightens out, we'll give him a call. But it's not an automatic free pass. Hey, come on down to your NXT tryout.
Well, look, Reed, her brother Reed, kept failing drug tests, and they wouldn't bring him in.
The biggest fish of all of them, Tessa Blanchard.
Yeah, right. Yeah, they won't even talk to Tessa Blanchard because of her attitude.
Yeah,
right.
Which is fair.
And that was before a lot of the really shitty stuff about
Tessa.
Exactly.
That was before all the grimy shit came out.
Yeah.
Back when it was Tessa, difficult to work with, and they were like, okay,
not Tessa the racist.
yeah, exactly.
Tessa the racist came out like a year or so later.
Yeah.
Right. And, hey, but maybe they knew something we didn't. To be fair.
Yeah.
This is possible. I mean, it's just because something gets out to us in January of 21. Doesn't mean they didn't know in February of 19.
Yeah, but it's just again, the things that irritate us over in my corner of the street are things like the way Vince booked her, and the way like when the whole thing when the Becky thing started, the idea that you really thought people were gonna be sympathetic, towards Charlotte Flair because Becky turned on her. I mean, come on. In hindsight, it was just such a bad thinking, and and then they stuck with it for like a few months when Charlotte was on the thing with Austin earlier this year, she was even talking about because they stuck with it longer than they should have, and she was just like, yeah, well, I was going along. Well, basically, she went along because that's what they told her to do, but even she saw that it wasn't really working. Right.
Yeah.
And then she said when she started acting more like a heel again, people started reacting more to her. So, so what I'm hoping is, again, like Jason said about being the Thanos in the division, what I'm hoping is just give her a dominant run. I mean, yes, Ronda is a threat. Somebody like Raquel will be a real threat. But the rest of those girls, she should kick their asses.
I don't know. I'm looking forward to her and Rhea locking up again, man.
I mean,
her and Rhea had an incredible match at WrestleMania a couple years ago.
I mean, on SmackDown right now, the other girl.
Oh, on SmackDown right now, yeah. But before Charlotte finally hangs it up, they've got to run her and Rhea back one more time.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And whenever they do her and Bianca, that's going to be a big deal.
Yeah, but that's a Mania main event to me.
Talk about Thanos. That's the last one.
Right.
Bianca got to get.
Then she'll have conquered all 4 horsewomen, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
All right. Yep. So let's move on from Charlotte Flair, and since we've talked about Vince McMahon quite a bit, let's segue into another little segment we want to talk about here. And I promised Jason we wouldn't go long because Jason doesn't even want to talk about it. It's kind of one of those, until there's news, there's no news. However, there is some Vince McMahon news. As I said, 5 days into 2023, the world of professional wrestling never sleeps. I am going to let Mr. Cash take the wheel here because he's the one that kind of broke everything, not to me personally, but kind of gave me a little bit more knowledge than I had, going in. Ray, take over and give us a synopsis of the last 6-8 hours here.
Well, in the history of mankind, there has been one animal that has forever lived through all of the natural disasters. When the dinosaurs died, when there was the ice age, when Kanye broke the internet, all of the different things, there's always been one. It's called a cockroach. Well, King Cockroach decided to come back into our purview. Vince McMahon has notified the WWE board that he intends on coming back. And he's bringing George Barrios and Michelle Wilson, the former CFO and CMO that he fired, back with him to take 3 spots on the board. Now, you might be asking yourself, well, how can Vince do that? The board excommunicated him and got him off. It's a good question, young IWC listener. The answer is he holds all the shares. He is the majority shareholder by far, which means he has a majority of the votes.
That's the part. That's the nuance that I think everybody missed. That just because they voted him off the board, they didn't buy him out.
But they couldn't. My God, if they bought him out, if you evaluate WWE right now, at say $2.5 billion, he probably owns 1.5 billion of the 2.5. It's a crazy amount of money that you'd have to pay him outright in cash.
They voted him off the board, and he acquiesced to their vote.
Yes. Because of the controversy that he feels now, with some hindsight, would have blown over had they just shut their mouth. Now, that's not a fact. However, this is Vince McMahon we're talking about. This is the man that fought God. This is the man that's beaten the United States in the court of law. This is the man that thinks he can do anything and usually can. Now, the reason this is interesting is because he has given WWE a sort of ultimatum of sorts. In that, he's coming back to either be the person who's going to be the proprietor for a sale, potentially, or it's more of an and/or, renegotiate the rights fees, which WWE has to negotiate. The negotiation window for the new rights fees starts this year, 2023, for Raw and SmackDown. Raw with NBC Universal, SmackDown with Fox. Now,
with his voting shares, basically, they need his signature to make any sort of deal.
And
he's saying, I'm going to withhold that.
I'm glad you said that, sir. That's exactly right. Vince has said, and it's in his press release, that he will not sign off on any new deals if he's not involved. Now, he has also added, as I've just read, and I'm going to find where it is in actual perpetuity. But he has added that he intends on not, for lack of a better term, ruining the status quo. He doesn't want to change anything of sorts. This is Vince McMahon. This is the company that, with all intents and purposes, him and his family built from the literal ground up. So, you telling me Vince gonna come back, get back in the building, and just sit there and chill? You think is he Michael Scott had done the Mifflin? No, he's going to change everything. The question now, the real question, I think that is pertinent to the conversation that matters, because I respect Jason's wanting to talk about this, because you're right. We don't have all the details. There's a lot more in the tank to be talked about. But the real question is,
I did want to throw in just to clarify, because although we do give Sean Ross Sapp a hard time on here, we did get this from him, or I give him a hard time, to be fair. I don't think he would make up a quote directly from Vince McMahon unless he got this dead cold. So I'm just going to go ahead and quote it. So according to his quote anyway,
and it probably came from his press release that he gave that was given to the WWE board.
Right.
So yes, go ahead.
So he said, quote, WWE has an exceptional management team in place, and I do not intend for my return to have any impact on their roles, duties, or responsibilities. End quote. So to that, I'd say he wants it to appear, at least, and he intends to just come back and facilitate the same. That's it. That's what he's presenting to us. I'm not telling you what the truth is.
Yes.
But basically, that's what he's legally saying. Hey, I'm just going to come back, and we're going to facilitate a sale, and that's going to be the end of it.
And we know it's not true. At least we're pretty sure it's not true. But the real question is, that's pertinent, I think, to the future of the WWE, and that's most interesting and important to fans is, he can come back and take back chairman of the board. He can come back and be an active member of the board and facilitate sales and rights fees and all of that behind the scenes stuff that a CEO would do. Cool. Is he going to come back as head of creative? That's the big question. Nowhere in any of this in any of this listed is that said or alluded to that he wants to take back the creative side. Now, what's interesting is, and I work for Wrestling Inc. I have not worked in 2 months because I've had deaths in the family, but I work for Wrestling Inc. Full disclosure. So I am not Sean Ross Sapp. I am not Ross Berman. I'm not these guys, Dave Meltzer. I don't have their number on speed dial. But from all of the channels that I'm involved in or that I read or that I follow, everybody says the same thing. The majority of the roster will not deal with it happily if he comes back in a creative standpoint. And to think of all these people that Vince fired, that Triple H has now rehired, think of William Regal leaving actually, if I'm honest, a great opportunity with AEW to come back to WWE and get a good job so he can be back at home with his best friend and his son. To think of all the changes that have been made and the goodwill that now WWE has been given. We've had one pay-per-view that was a massive rousing success in the UK, and we got another that was just announced today, Money in the Bank, July 1st, at London, I believe in the O2.
Yeah.
So all of these things that Vince would have never done, and the changes have happened, and the goodwill has been built. We might not even get to this tonight. Shinsuke Nakamura was allowed to go wrestle in one of Great Muta's retirement matches in Noah. We're not talking about that, right? But that's a major that would have never happened under Vince.
Nope.
Carl Anderson was signed being the current never openweight champion and has wrestled 2 matches as champion. He just finished at Wrestle Kingdom when he put over Tama Tonga. Shout out to the Tongans. Like, these things would not happen if it was Vince instead of Hunter, Nick, and Steph. So that's the real question from a creative standpoint. Where does this land us going from now into the future? WrestleMania is his baby. This is the beginning of WrestleMania season. The Rumble's coming. Every report, the Raw script is done Friday. The SmackDown script is done Thursday. Like, things are running on clockwork. Things are different. I'm not saying better or not. That is in the eye of the beholder. Some people may think the Vince era was better. Good for you. It's completely subjective. But in terms of the people who work there, everybody feels, and I feel comfortable saying that, using that modifier, everybody feels like it's a much better company. They're more comfortable to come to work. They feel like they're more engaged. They feel the women in particular don't feel like they're going to be harassed every 5 seconds by him or one of his subordinates. There's a better flow. People feel like they can actually, their ideas matter. They can talk to people. The synergy between NXT and WWE is better than it's ever been. Now NXT people come to Raw and SmackDown every week to do main event or a dark match, and it's considered a reward. People are going back down. Things are different. So that's the real question to me. Forget all the rights fees and all that stuff. We can talk about that, like Jason said, when we have more details. That's the real question.
Well, I want to talk a minute about the synergy because I thought that was really, really interesting. The transition from Triple H or from Vince to Triple H, while there had been very glaring, like, hey, this is what we're doing now, all the returns, all the people he's brought back, the direction he's gone, there was no lull. Like it was just seamless. It's like, okay, Vince is out, this is what I'm doing, and we're off to the races with it. And largely with a couple of questionable things, I think Triple H is pretty well stepped right up to the plate creatively. I think, depending on who's making the decision as far as like the business aspect of it goes, be it Stephanie, be it Nick, I think WWE has made some bold moves, some bold and impressive changes, like Ray mentioned a minute ago, letting Carl Anderson go and defend over in Japan, letting Shinsuke go over and wrestle, the Great Muta. These are incredible things that that have been seamless. Like I thought maybe there'd be a little bit of a lull in between the transition period, and then eventually Triple H would get his legs. I feel like he got his legs pretty quickly and just kept right on rolling with it.
Yeah,
granted, there was some period from like WrestleMania to SummerSlam that very much had the Vince thumbprint on it. Like these were things that were in the works before Vince ever officially retired. So he had to finish up all those little stories. But everything that he's done since then has been this smooth, seamless transition, and I don't want to see it backslide. Like, if Vince is there to help them make some important business decisions, fine. Okay, because, that affects him directly. Like, that hits him right in the pocket if they sign a bad TV deal. And if I remember correctly, Vince signed a bad TV deal about 10 years ago, and if I remember correctly, he lost to somewhere in the like $500 million on a TV deal about 10 years ago. So
I think it was back when they were on, like, was it Spike TV and they came back and all that stuff.
He signed a piss poor TV deal and lost hundreds of millions of dollars. So if you don't have, and Vince is a bulldog and Vince has that negotiating ability, you kind of want him there for that. But creatively, WWE's going in a good direction right now. I take Monday Night Raw as an example. The first Raw of 2023 was fucking fire. It was violent. It was hard-hitting. Every single match that I saw was good to great in all the right ways. They didn't go too long. There was the right amount of violence. Solo Sikoa and Elias had a freaking banger of a match. And, I just feel like that's Triple H influence. I think Triple H is trying to bring back some of that more raw, visceral type of wrestling while still trying to maintain that balance of sports entertainment. Well, and I think Vince had gotten away from the visceral wrestling and was more spectacle and entertainment.
Because, let me just interject real quick, because it was one of those, one of the million things that I've been keeping track of over the past year. In general, so one thing that, as far as the match layouts on Raw in particular, like Vince booked a lot more of those sub 5-minute matches, and there are Hunter has cut them in half, even like those sub 5-minute matches. There just aren't that many of those anymore, and there are more matches on the other end. They go, the 10, 15-minute matches, right? There are more of those now, and I'm just telling you, there's a demonstrable, it's a statistically, it is a big difference. We're talking like literally half as many matches that go under 5 minutes now. Half as many. I'm looking at it now in front of me, and there are 3 times as many matches on Raw that go more than 15. That's the difference between Vince and Hunter. So half as many matches under 5, 3 times as many matches that go over 15 minutes now. And that is a tangible difference between the two.
Well, really I take Bianca and Alexa. I don't have the time in front of me, but I feel like Bianca and Alexa got 10 minutes at least.
It was like, what was it here?
What was the time on that, Rob?
Looking it up now.
Because
that was going to be my interjection, because I was like, oh, I know Rob's got the numbers for this. And
Rob's the data guy. He's the deacon of data. Remember this.
Yes. All right. Well, according to Cage Match, they went 18 minutes and 57 seconds.
That never would have happened under Vince McMahon. Those ladies would have been lucky to get 7.
Well, particularly
Bianca Belair and Alexa Bliss under Vince McMahon would have gotten 7, 8 minutes tops.
Especially, they would have gotten 8 minutes because that match was to set up the angle. If it was,
to be fair, there was at least 5 minutes of beatdown after the match. Is that match including the beatdown, or is that just the match?
That's just what they have here.
Okay, so that's probably match, because I know they didn't wrestle for a straight 18 minutes. I love Alexa Bliss. She ain't an 18-minute wrestler.
No, but what it is, because what Vince was notorious for, like those matches that just existed to set up the angle afterwards, he would cut a lot of those short.
It was a 3-minute match with 3 minutes of angle setup.
Yeah, he would get you. I mean, for something like they did Monday, Vince would have had they'd have been 7 or 8 minutes, and then gone to the Uncle Howdy stuff. And so they got 18 minutes, and
I'll tell you, it's a better show.
Monday Night Raw was awesome.
I had to get used to having more longer matches, because I remember last year at one point I was kind of complaining about it.
Almost every match has a commercial break. It's like, well,
yeah, and but so took me some time to get used to having just that many go that long. But now, and like the main event between Theory and Seth Rollins went 23 minutes, and that's a regular thing now.
Yeah.
And that wasn't a regular thing under Vince. That's if you're looking for like substances differences and what's on TV, it's that. Now, SmackDown hasn't changed quite that much, because SmackDown's a different format. One is only 2 hours, and then also so much of it is centered around the bloodline, and so that's a lot of monologuing and all of that, for lack of a better word. So that doesn't get structured the same. One more good reason to have Charlotte back is that she usually gets to work longer matches with everybody on TV.
Yeah.
But anyway, I won't go down. But
side note on the Charlotte Flair thing, and I forgot to mention this earlier. If you want to know why they brought her back, her YouTube return video is currently sitting at about 2.7 million. Just thought I'd throw that out there.
And so it's
why.
If you want to know why they brought her back, the last 3 women who faced Ronda Rousey on pay-per-view were major matches were Liv Morgan, Shotzi Blackheart, and Raquel Gonzalez. And again, all 3 of them are dope. Raquel's going to be a super duper star. Liv the fans love Liv, so she's always going to be good because of the fans. And Shotzi has her spot, but they are not Charlotte Flair.
No.
And let me just say, now overall, if I had to give overall assessment of how like things are performing under Hunter, the short answer is tickets for TV are doing better. I think on both shows. Okay. SmackDown ratings are generally doing better. In fact, on average, they're up from 2021 to 2022. They're up year to year. So he's doing better there. The only real cause for concern, honestly, is like the past month or so, the third hour of Raw has been dropping more than usual. So it may just, that very well may be that, you know what, the people have decided that we're watching 2 hours of wrestling and that's going to be it.
And some of that may be the age bracket. I know Dave Meltzer has pointed out that the average age of the Raw viewer is more mine and Rob's age and older. And quite frankly, pal, I'm in bed by 10 o'clock. Like I'm asleep by 10 o'clock.
That very well could be it. And so it's, but I've just noticed, like for the past month or so, the third hour has been dipping. I mean, even when you account for Monday Night Football, the third hour has still been dipping more than it had been in the past.
But we'll definitely see, because last week was last week's Monday Night Football.
Yeah, but I mean, but I'm just saying it dips more than even in the past when you accounted for Monday Night Football.
Yeah,
it's the past month or so, it's been a larger drop. than
Yeah.
usual. So is that some? I mean, and look, they're not in trouble or anything, but if you're in charge of creative, and if you're in charge of operations there or whatever, you have to figure out, okay, have people's TV viewing habits just changed, or is there something we're doing that's not getting over?
I think it's TV habits. I think it's viewing habits. I think it's the fact that I can go and watch it on Hulu
There you go.
within 24
YouTube.
to 48 hours.
I can watch on YouTube in 15.
And
Yeah.
so, we have a small. Well, you know me. We have a small sample size right now, so I'd say, for us who don't have, we don't have all the different subcategories of this, that, and the other in front of us. So I mean, I can't make draw a conclusion right now. I would not draw any conclusion right now. But that's something that they need. They have all the different subcategories in this breakdown and this, that, and the other. So that's for them to figure out, because it's probably a little bit of both. All right, there probably is there may be something that's not resonating enough to keep people there for all 3 hours, and it's probably also some viewing habits also. But we won't know for sure. Well, because look, I mean, WrestleMania season is starting now, and so there should be a bit of and then Monday Night Football will be over soon. So if there isn't if there's no correction back to what it was, then you have to if you're there, you have to start trying to figure out, okay, well, what exactly is happening here? But that's really, I mean, if you're talking about any causes for concern, that's really it.
Well, let's go to one of the babies in the group. Jason has been rather quiet here. I know, Jason, you typically watch Raw as it happens, right?
Yeah.
Do you stick around for the third hour, or do you tap out and watch it on Hulu?
I stick around for it. I might not, especially now during football season. I'm usually flipping between that and Monday Night Raw or Monday Night Football anyway. But no, I always stick around for the third hour. Yeah.
Okay.
But
yeah,
again,
my days, even if I had regular cable, my days of sitting up till 11 o'clock on a Monday night watching Raw ended about 10 years ago.
Well, why are you asking me? I proposed to my wife at WrestleMania. I'm wearing a Cody Rhodes American sweatshirt while I'm recording my wrestling podcast.
I asked a super fan.
Yeah.
Good point. Well, I DVR'd, and I have two other shows that I have two other shows I watch on Monday on top of football, on top of wrestling. So usually because wrestling is DVR'd and it's something that I don't have to watch the show to get an idea of what happened.
Right.
So I'll normally kind of make that the most important priority.
That's the thing, because they're almost their own worst enemy with the way they do their Twitter feed and the way they do their YouTube and all that stuff. It's like, you can get the cliff notes of any show about 2 seconds after it happens on all their forms of social media. So the need to watch it live is like plummeted.
Yeah.
Well, and they're diversifying their income streams. Think about how much money they make off YouTube. Think about how much money they make off of off of merchandise and what I've lost the word, but you know what I'm trying to say, from things coming from social media. In every metric they have, they have one of the biggest sports-esque or entertainment-esque Twitter pages and follows, or Facebook or Instagram. They're
Same thing with YouTube. Their YouTube views are in the billions.
I think they're number 6 of all YouTube channels.
Yeah, and
anyone who's listening to a wrestling podcast right now probably doesn't want to hear this, but there are plenty of people who consume WWE purely on YouTube and then maybe tune in on Peacock for the big pay-per-views. And no, I mean, like, people just... No, I know.
Hailing from the pod cave in Florida.
But to be fair, you go back and watch Hulu of Raw and Hulu of SmackDown and this, that, and the other thing. I'm talking people who just watch the cliff notes of everything and then, hey, I'll tune in for the Royal Rumble, Survivor Series, because I have Peacock anyway, because I have every streaming service.
Well, even before I had the network and Peacock, that was me. I kept up with WWE via YouTube, via Twitter, via Facebook. That was because when I lived in New York, we had one TV in the apartment, and I had 3 female roommates, and they watched the Kardashians and the Housewives and whatever else they were into. So I had to wait until everybody was either at school or work and hope that I caught wrestling when it came on. And of course, I'd always get the side, "Oh, you're watching that fake shit." I'm like, "Didn't you just watch the Kardashians?" So yeah, man, I consumed WWE through social media for years.
Now this is they made $70 million from YouTube last year. And,
Jesus Christ! I'd love to make $70 from YouTube.
Yeah.
So I can't make a tail of it thing.
Well, it's just the question.
Don't give away all of your content.
Yeah.
Then more people will tune in live. But then if you don't give away all that content, there are people who just will tune out. Period.
And so the question becomes, okay, is what we're losing in TV, are we making it up in the other stuff or not?
I would say they are.
I'd say the answer is yes.
Because for the number of people that are, there's a difference between watching the product and consuming the product. Big difference.
Yes.
Right.
And so that's why I hate the ratings argument, because that's the people who are watching it at that time, on that day, in that time frame, based on that Nielsen box.
Right.
Yeah.
It was beginning. I know there was 8 million people and 10 million people watching it in 1997, 1998. There are more consuming it today. I dare you to tell me I'm wrong. Go look at every metric that's possible alive anywhere on social media. Tell me the number of people that are tweeting about it at any time, that are Instagramming about it at any time. Facebook, search.
I am YouTube, that fan.
Hulu.
I do not watch WWE on a weekly basis. I'm wearing a Cody Rhodes shirt with an NXT replica belt sitting over my left-hand shoulder with a Raw coffee cup in my kitchen.
Right.
I'm a consumer of WWE product. I am not a weekly watcher.
Yeah. Now, of course, look, the trick with all the social media stuff, the trick is how it's actually monetizing it. That's because, like, okay, so the YouTube channel is honestly that's the most reliable kind of social media kind of thing to make money with, because somebody posted like the rate that TikTok pays for stuff, and it's not even, it's honestly,
it's abysmal compared to YouTube.
Yeah, it is. You have to have an astronomically high number of views on TikTok to make any kind of money. Whereas with YouTube, I mean, it's anywhere from, the low end is 50 cents per 1,000 views, and the high end is $8 per 1,000 views.
I would imagine WWE's negotiated the higher end of that scale.
Probably. Well, they made $70 million, so they from YouTube, so they have a good deal, whatever the rate is.
Well, and they get, obviously your better advertisers are good. It also depends on the advertiser and how much the advertiser is going to pay per view.
Right.
And if you got, say, Coca-Cola, Pepsi-Cola, McDonald's, Burger King, somebody like that versus, I don't know, I don't want to minimalize or trivialize anybody's business, but like, say, a Dave & Buster's or a Chuck E. Cheese or something like that, obviously they can pay, but they're not going to pay as well as a McDonald's or a Coca-Cola or Burger King or something like that.
And just let me tell you, from what I've looked at this year, like the most of
hang on, we have to take a pause to say rest in peace, Buster. He actually passed away this week.
Did he?
Buster?
Yeah, the guy of Dave and.
Oh,
yeah,
no way.
Okay. His actual name, but yeah, he passed away this week.
Damn, Buster.
That sucks.
Yeah, I should find that.
Sorry, Rob, I derailed you. Go ahead.
Oh, no problem. But like, okay, the big, like, an abysmal failure of a YouTube video on the WWE channel gets like 50,000 views. Okay, I mean, something where it's like, oh, that didn't do shit, is 50,000. Okay.
I would love to have 50,000 views per video on our YouTube channel, buddy.
Yeah. So and they put stuff up there that just gets 100,000 views like it's nothing. And they have some of these matches that because they have a bunch of full matches that they've uploaded, and some of those have 50 million views, 80 million views, and some of that stuff was just sitting up there, and it's still getting more and more views, even though it's been there for a while. Like there's some of the older videos they have up there that have picked up 10 million views just this year. And so they're piling up money on that. And they were very smart to jump on that train because the other social media forums don't really bring you in money like that. They don't. So they were very smart to get in on that train. And when they did, as we've said before, they have always been ahead of the curve when it comes to, going to pay-per-view, when it came to going to streaming, when it came to going to syndication.
Media in general. I mean, Vince McMahon saw closed circuit television for what it was back in the day. He saw pay-per-view for what it was back in the day. Vince McMahon envisioned WWE Network back in the 80s.
Yeah.
And then,
the territory days, he'd walk around and be like, "Hey, pal, let me buy you." And then they'd be like, "No." And you go, "Okay, well, I have a cable deal and you don't, so bye."
Yeah,
And
so they've always been a step ahead. And then look, they were a step ahead because now the thing to do now is to not have your own service anymore, but just to license your content to some other service.
Yep.
And they jumped out. They were ahead of everybody on that when they did the Peacock thing, because running the network as a standalone wasn't just having the return. And so they made
Becky Lynch and The Undertaker are playable characters in Rainbow Six Siege.
Yeah, and New Day was one of those Call of Duty games.
Gears of War.
Gears of
War. Yeah, and so they've jumped ahead. They've been ahead of people on that, and not just wrestling companies. They've been ahead of people in entertainment on that. For a long time.
Getting back to Vince McMahon for a minute, Vince is such a conundrum where that's concerned because he was ahead of the curve in terms of media, but like 2 years behind the curve in pop culture. Like Vince would bring out a star who was 2 years past being relevant.
But that makes sense to me.
On TV, but it's just the thing he put on TV. It's like, what are you doing?
But that makes all the sense in the world to me, and that's the whole reason why when we started the conversation, that was where I went with the creative side of it and not the business side. But that makes all the sense in the world to me. If you listen to everybody who's ever met Vince McMahon, he's obsessed with wrestling. So like I remember there was a story someone was telling. God, I can't remember who it was, but they were on his jet and they were talking about something, and the dude was watching a movie. It was some funny movie. I don't remember what it was, Friday or something. Beverly Hills Cop, something funny. And he was like, and Vince was like, "What you watching?" And he showed him. He was like, "Have you seen it before?" "No. Why would I watch that? We got Santino." Like Vince is so obsessed with wrestling that for him to know somebody that will be popular in popular culture, why would he know who they are?
Right.
Because they're not in wrestling.
And that speaks to Vince because Vince has always seen his wrestlers as stars. This is why they're WWE superstars. Yep. And Ed said this when him and Christian had their podcast together one time. He said Vince lives in the WWE bubble. And in the WWE bubble, there are no other stars. So you actually have to open the door and let him in and show him, hey, there's other stuff out here, because to him, his people are the celebrities. His people are the stars. And that was his vision for pro wrestling the whole time.
100%. And it's worked. And it's what set the bar for how a wrestling company can become profitable and mainstream. And it set the bar as to how a wrestler can become a star outside of wrestling. And I know we're going to talk about Mercedes. I think we're going to talk about her at the end of this.
We are. We're going to transition to that in a minute.
I just want to say one final thing about Vince, if you don't mind. What's wild to me about this entire story is I understand Vince was the CEO and the chairman of the board and head of creative and all the superlatives that Tony Khan tries to give himself and all that stuff, right? I get that. And it was his company. He bankrolled it. It was a family-owned company before they did the IPO. I get all that. What's wild to me is that in the bylaws of this company, they didn't put in there a fail-safe that if something happened to that CEO, that they couldn't get rid of him in a way that would help the company from a fiduciary standpoint. It's wild to me. Because if you guys remember, the entire reason he was taken out, the reason he was excused or asked to leave and he acquiesced, the entire reason wasn't because of the fact that he was sleeping with women and the company. It was the fact that he paid them with company money.
Yeah. Yep.
Because if he would have paid him with company money, it would have been just under the rug. Oh, wow, disgraced Vince, nobody cares. But because it was a problem with the FDIC, that's when it got dangerous. And they're like, you got to go. And they had to change their statements and pay so much back and all this. That's why it got dangerous. So it's wild to me that there was no fail-safe, because every company has some sort of fail-safe for a CEO or a board member who does something dangerous that needs to be dealt litigiously to get them out of there.
Well, to that I say that's why at the top of this I was like, let's let this play out and watch how this actually goes, because again, due respect
they might
to,
just
due respect to this woman at Wall Street Journal, due respect to Sean and all those people who are reporting this. This is still an ongoing present thing. So there's going to be multiple shoes to drop, I feel like.
And it's one of those things where he ain't back until he's back.
And also,
he can say he's back because he's the primary shareholder. So literally the second he says, I'm coming back to work on Tuesday, he back. This is not something.
And if he shows up, then we have something to talk about. Yeah. And if the shit hits the fan, then we really have something to talk about. My hope is that if he comes back in a business capacity, fine. Vince is a great businessman. He's got a great business acumen. If he's coming back creatively, we're going to have an issue. I don't want that roster shaken up. If those people are as happy as Rey says they are, I want to keep them happy. There's a lot of people on the WWE roster I like right now. There's a lot of people that they brought back that I like that I don't want to see leave. And, I don't want to see that happen again. I want Triple H is in charge of creative now. I want to see what he's got. And I can look back historically at my WWE fandom and say, there was a lot of shit Vince McMahon did that I hated. Yeah. There was a hell of a lot more shit that Vince McMahon did that I loved.
Sure.
And as Rob has said on this show, for everything he did that you thought sucked, there were at least 2 things he did that you popped for. Things that you did that you loved. I think that day has come and gone. It's time creatively for WWE to shift. I think they've shifted in a good direction. I think Triple H has got some great ideas. He's got people he obviously believes in, people that he's brought back that Vince released, people that he wants to see try. And I have no objection to anybody trying. And if Bronson Reed fails to get over, we tried. Vince didn't even try with him. Dexter Lumis. If Dexter doesn't get over, that's 100% on Dexter now. We never gave him a try. Mia Yim, same thing. Dakota Kai, Io Shirai, Johnny Gargano. We could keep going down the list of people that Vince wasn't interested in bringing on board, that Triple H believed in and brought back. Now, if they fail, we can't look at creative and say, creative failed them.
Yeah.
Now we can say, okay, these just weren't the guys or the girls. And that's what I want. Moving forward, that's what I want. And that's one thing about Vince that always irritated me was he never gave certain people a chance. It's like if it didn't catch on immediately, they were out the door. And I'm like, let it slow burn, pal. Something like Dexter, something like Aleister Black. You tell me you couldn't have found something to do with Aleister Black?
Well, and then you spent weeks, if not months, redoing his character, giving him these expensive ass vignettes, and the day he debuts, you fire him after that.
Yeah, absolute shit to me that he fired Aleister Black like that. That was still hot over that one. Keith Lee, same thing. And Ray, you said this on this show. They brought Keith Lee up and then changed everything that made Keith Lee special.
And they were mad that it wasn't working.
And they were mad that it wasn't working, and they released him for it. They punished him for it.
Yep.
Still pissed at Vince McMahon over that one.
Yep.
Okay, so no, I absolutely do not want Vince back in charge of creative, because at least Triple H is going to give these people a chance. At least he's going to give them something, and if they make it work and they make, there are aspects of this Dexter Lumis Miz thing that I think are chicken shit, but I think they're making chicken salad out of it because the matches have been pretty damn good. So, I'm interested to see where it goes.
I think my one thing would be, as Rob said, the metrics bear out so far that I'm not going to call it a rousing success, but Triple H is doing just fine creatively.
He's doing no worse, if nothing else.
Exactly. So my hope is this is the one time that Vincent Kennedy, by God, McMahon is going to play it straight. And he's like, you know what? I just want to have this one final capstone on my father's legacy, on the family company and whatnot, and send us all off into the sunset. And
that may be it. He may be looking at this TV deal going, you know what? I don't trust these guys enough not to screw it up. Let me make sure they get the best TV deals possible, and then we can move on from there.
That's what I'm hoping.
If you are going to sell the company, yeah, obviously, I get it.
I don't think they sell right now.
No, they're not selling the company. That's just
No. He's posturing.
He's posturing. Look, all y'all are right. All y'all said everything correctly. I just want to sympathize for those women who are going to be working with him if he comes back, and how uncomfortable they may feel, because that man has done some dastardly things with women in that company.
Yeah.
On and off screen, real and scripted. And there's a reason we're here. And I get it. He's a genius. He's one of the best businessmen we've probably ever seen in our generation in the 20th century. Give him all his flowers and all of his accolades and all of that. But he's still a menace when it comes to women, unfortunately. And I'm terrified for those women who are going to feel uncomfortable and have no other recourse. Because I guarantee you, 99% of the women that work there don't have the means to say, I can't do it, I'm leaving.
Yeah.
So
and
don't want to forget about that.
That part of that playing out, which is why I'd be like, okay, let's let this play out for a couple of weeks and see what happens. Because again, while we have all these reports so far, we don't have a copy of all the board's bylaws and, everything like that. So again, they may be looking at this situation and saying, all right, old man, we'll play chicken. And if you walk through the door on Monday, well, we'll deal with that when you walk through the door on Monday.
Yeah.
So we'll see.
Yeah. Well, we have only in front of us what's been reported in the last 8-9 hours, and that's that Vince has made an official statement that he is planning on coming back to work, and that he is posturing and essentially holding the company hostage, blackmailing them into letting him come back to work. I was like, look, we're not signing any TV deals until I come back to work. And it's going to be interesting over the next 1 to 5 to 7 days as to what happens with that. How does the board react? Does he stand firm? Does he back down? Vince is not a back down kind of guy.
How do his kids?
And that's going to be the bigger question is, I don't know how his relationship is with Stephanie. It's been reported his relationship with Shane has been hot and cold over the years. So it'll be real interesting to see the next 7 days in WWE from a backstage standpoint is going to be real interesting. And maybe next week we'll have more to talk about on this show.
Here's a real question. Knowing this controversy and knowing the bad year that this guy has taken professionally, does The Rock not come back now because Vince is back to dissociation?
That's
The Rock's a coward and doesn't want to bow to the tribal chief. So that's the end of that. Come on.
Oh, God.
From a business standpoint, I think The Rock comes back. I think The Rock, I think he's loyal to Vince.
No, Rock is loyal to Vince. Think about it. The entire Young Rock show, essentially about him, his dad, and Vince. So he's very loyal to Vince. But again, this is a guy who lives and dies on his public perception. And the entire Black Adam loss, the entire thing that happened with that and the DC thing, and how that was a shot and a failure, as bad as it was. You think he wants to take another public hit?
The dude did a selfie, almost apology video today about, sometimes you get knocked down, you have to pick yourself back up again.
Because he did a movie that didn't make $600 billion.
Yeah. He wants to, at this point, he's super loyal to Vince, and
I think it depends. The Rock coming back depends on whether or not Vince is head of creative. I think if Vince is just a business partner,
he's close with Hunter, so I don't know.
He is close with Hunter.
Yeah,
so.
and
I think even if he does come back again to play it straight and facilitate, TV deals and the backroom stuff and whatnot, I mean, we probably know he's already still texting Hunter about stuff. I find it hard to believe he's been totally hands off with creative and all that good stuff. Hopefully it's just that, and he's just like, hey, being a bother other than more than anything.
Hunter, give him the burner phone, bro. The one that you throw in the back room.
Yeah, be like, hey, Pops, I got a new phone number, and give him one of your kids' phone number.
Give him that Tony Stark Captain America phone.
Yeah.
Right. Give him
Tony Stank.
Yeah, and I mean, I think Ray hit it right on the head, though, that, I mean, again, the environment there is so much better for the women who work there right now. And so, I mean, we can only hope that if he does indeed come back, that it will be just to do this media deal thing and to maximize his share value or whatever. And I said this back when Hunter started bringing those people back, and I said that at that point, because at that point I wasn't like doing cartwheels because he was bringing all these people back, and I'd said that I had made peace with them being gone. That as much as I hated it when a lot of them were released, that the time had passed and that I had accepted that they were gone. I think we have all accepted that Vince is gone.
Yeah,
and not that we were begging him to come back ever, but it was still very jarring when he said, "Okay, I'm out." Right.
Well, that was our childhood gone.
Yeah.
Like every single one of us, our childhood gone.
Yeah.
Like and like literally with no transition. Like when I think of our childhood, people like Stan Lee was goddamn 98 years old.
Yeah.
We knew eventually Stan Lee was going to pass away.
Right.
Okay. We knew eventually James Earl Jones was going to stop doing the voice of Darth Vader. Like Vince was just like part of that childhood. And then he was gone. Like without even like warning. It was like all of a sudden, hey, I'm out of here, pals.
Yeah. And but we did get through it, and we did get to the point where we're like, okay, well, Hunter's in charge, and okay, he's in charge, so we're still here, right? And so now, I mean, no, I don't want him to come back. And look, and as fans, we are all, especially us super fans, like the people who only watch the TV and don't dig into all this stuff. I won't put this on their hands. But us super fans who knew a whole lot about how Vince carried on, I mean, look, we looked the other way on a whole lot of shit.
We're absolutely complicit. Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, we're complicit, no doubt.
Yeah, and
no doubt.
So now, and right now, we don't have to do that anymore. Right?
We have been complicit in supporting a historically dirty industry, not just Vince.
Yeah, well, yeah, exactly, and and so now, and the more we get those type of guys out, the better off we'll be. And when Laurinaitis getting the hell out of there was a good thing.
That was a good start.
Yeah, and then when they got to get Bruce out of there, I mean, those guys all need to, for better or worse, they had, they've been there, they did what they did, but we, those guys, we need to get those guys out of there and keep them out and let them go do their podcasts or whatever, right?
I would say this to Vince McMahon, pal, you got 40 years out of a entertainment medium that without you would have died in the early to mid 80s, like as it's known now. You got way more time out of this, way more mileage out of this than anybody ever could or would have. You have nothing left to give. Like let's sweep all the dirty shit off the table for a minute. Creatively, Vince McMahon has nothing left to prove to anybody. He took something that should have been dead and buried decades ago and made it one of the largest multimedia entertainment just juggernauts in the world. And it's something that will last. It'll probably outlast us. It will probably be something that our kids' kids watch and their kids' kids continue to enjoy in some format or another.
Right.
And that's his legacy. Creatively, there's nothing left to prove, brother. you went out on a high note on one of the best WrestleManias of the last 10 years.
Yeah.
Creatively, WrestleMania last year was one of the best that I've seen since I started watching again in 2012. Honest to God, right hand to God, it's the most fun I've had watching a WrestleMania in the last 10 years. Go out on that high note creatively, buddy. If you want to come back and negotiate a TV deal, awesome. Negotiate the TV rights. Make sure that WWE has a good financial, foundation to sit on for the next 10 to 20 years. And go back home. Honest to God, just go back home. There's nothing left creatively. Anybody got any final words before we go into the next segment?
No, we better get on to Banks here.
All right, well, let's get on to the next thing here. Going to talk a little bit of Wrestle Kingdom. Going to start off by saying I didn't watch it. I did see the highlight, and the highlight of the whole night for what seems to be everybody. Long speculated, Sasha Banks notoriously walked out of WWE with Naomi, about 6 months ago or so. It's been rumored, speculated, reported, whatever, that WWE quietly let her out of her contract back in like June or July. And, there's been a lot of speculation as to what she was going to do moving forward. The speculation as the hype for Wrestle Kingdom started to build, that Sasha was going to be there. Then it was announced officially that Sasha was going to be there. And then she shows up 48 hours ago at Wrestle Kingdom. And I'm not sure how I feel about it. Like, as a Sasha Banks fan, I'm bummed that they didn't work something out. Okay, I liked Sasha Banks. I'm not one of those psychotic Sasha Banks hung the moon fans, but I liked the character. I thought the boss character worked just fine. And I liked her because initially I hated her, and I hated her for different reasons. I didn't feel it. I'm like, who is this girl? What is this? I don't care for it. And then she slowly won me over. So I really enjoyed that. So when I found out again that she was unhappy with what was going on in WWE and she walked out again, I was like, the hell are we doing? What's going on? Why can't we make this girl happy? Is it her? Is it them? What the hell's going on? We fast forward 6 months and she's at least seemingly definitively out of the company. WWE officially, I think today, moved her to the alumni section of the roster on the website. I have mixed emotions about her her debut at Wrestle Kingdom against Kairi Sane. Mercedes Mone just doesn't. Maybe it's just because I've had 10 years of Sasha Banks, and I have to recalibrate myself to this reinvention. But I'm going to start off with Ray here. What are your thoughts initially on this?
I want to talk about the name first. One of the best things WWE has done over the past couple of years is their documentary series. They had a WWE24. They have the 365 where they followed someone for a year and all the different things. They did one on Sasha Banks a while back, and there was a part in there that, it hit me harder than almost anything I've ever heard a wrestler say. And she said that for so long, she was called Sasha. There was points where she didn't even remember her name.
I remember that documentary. It was really good. Right. And again, same thing. It gets you right in the feels.
It hits you because we don't, as a fan of the sport that we're a fan of, that even goes, you can even think of football, watching my boy Hamlin get resuscitated on the fucking field. As a fan of these sports that are extreme and entities that are dangerous, right? That these people put their livelihoods and on the line in many ways, forms of fashion, you have to accept some level of culpability in that you don't care about their well-being to a certain extent. You have to. There's no way you can really truly care about their well-being and watch them do that. And I'm not saying you don't care, but there's a part of you that has to turn that off and ignore it while you're enjoying it, right? And so that's one of those moments that takes that away. And you're like, man, I didn't think about that because, wrestling's the only medium where we expect them to be that person 24/7. Sasha Banks, to most people, is Sasha Banks. They don't know who Mercedes Varnado is.
Yeah.
They know Sasha Banks, but Chris Evans that walks down the street, you don't say, oh, it's Captain America. He's not Steve Rogers. There's a difference.
Yeah.
And so I felt that really, really strongly when I heard her say that. I just needed to be called Mercedes for a while. So I don't like the Monet part, but again, she Banks, Monet, keeping with the idea and the theme. Her jacket said Banks in Japanese, so she is still appreciating the lineage that she came from. The reason why her hair had the blue and the burnt was almost the idea about it, from what I've been hearing, is the burning of the blue into something different. That's why it looked
right.
Like that,
it's a transition period, is what it is.
Transitioning 100%.
Even got a promotion. She's not the boss. She's the CEO.
She's the CEO, right? And good thing for her, because the boss was a direct offshoot from Snoop, the cousin. CEO was completely her now.
Yeah.
And so the names don't matter. Dolph Ziggler got over it as a name. I can accept that, right? Cool. I'm disappointed too that she couldn't work something out with WWE, but she is a lot like Jon Moxley in the sense that she is such a fan and a lover of the quote unquote sport of wrestling.
Yeah.
That to her, it doesn't matter where she does it. Right? Now, Moxley's issue and Sasha's issue are similar but different. Moxley's issue is that they wouldn't let him do the things he wanted to do. Sasha's issue was that she didn't think she was respected on the level that she deserved to be respected. And so, completely different situations. And I'm not here to debate or dissect that. But I really don't think there's anything WWE could have done to bring her back. Not because they did wrong by her, or not because she felt wronged, but because it's always been her dream to work in Japan, to work in Mexico. And part of her transition of being Mercedes KV to becoming Sasha Banks, to becoming this new person that she is now, where she's popular outside of wrestling. She's a major part of one of the top TV shows on all of entertainment. She's doing all these other things. She got a CD coming out, which is probably going to be trash, but I'm not going to judge her based on doing that. Right? But I'm sorry.
Look, most wrestling musicians are not good at the music.
Most athlete musicians are garbage. Yes. Word to Dame Dollar, the only good one.
Can we talk for a second? I know theme songs don't matter a lick in Japan because the entrances are just whatever, because the audience doesn't do anything anyway. But my God, that music was trash.
It was trash, but legitimately, how many Kaze Nina Rays are out there, bro?
Yeah.
Not many.
No.
Not many. Listen to the entire, if you would have watched Wrestle Kingdom from the Rambo to the end, I want you to tell me.
I would have popped for
five things.
Theme, Tanahashi's, G.O.D. if the Girls of Destiny.
Well, Tama, Tama wrestled. Yeah.
I forget just if he came out to the Bullet Club's theme or his own. But anyway.
No, remember they got kicked out of the Bullet Club, so there's just.
Oh, that's dumb.
Yeah.
You're right. So anyway, yes, Girls of Destiny's theme, his theme. Tanahashi's theme is an absolute banger. And that's it.
I can name more, but that could be another conversation.
Yeah, we don't go down that road.
Yeah,
but
you're right. It's not many.
Presentation, that aspect of the presentation just matters a whole lot less in New Japan.
Yeah.
So
100%.
It is what it is.
So I think she would have done this anyway. I think she still may come back to WWE, but I think she just. In fact, I said Moxley. Let me give you a better example. This is very similar to Dave Bautista, in that she just had to prove to herself she could do it without WWE.
Right.
And I follow her on all the socials, and she's been posting so much after they had some type of deal where she do nothing wrestling related until the new year. As soon as the new year hits, you start seeing her videos of her in Japan, and then after Wrestle Kingdom, all the stuff started coming out. And there was one thing she said, well, I got a bus. One thing she wanted from WWE was to get a bus. New Japan got her, Stardom got her a bus, right? All this stuff. I will say, and I know I'm going to be called hating because Sasha's fans, Mercedes fans, are Nicki Minaj-esque in that, like, you can't say nothing negative about her because you're hating. And I'll take that, whatever. But quite often in Wrestle Kingdom and New Japan, The way they don't have episodic TV, so the way they build stories is after a match, someone comes out, calls you out, we get the match that was at the feud. So her coming out after Kairi beat Tam Nagano to do that, perfect. The move she hit her with, I don't know if it's Kairi's fault or Sasha's fault, or sorry, Mercedes' fault, but it was horrible and it hurt so much of it. Now I've seen videos of her hitting the move, and even when she does hit it, I don't like it. That's her choice. If she wants to use that, cool. I get one to do something different than the bank statement. I respect it. I do. That move ain't hidden for me. You know,
nah.
it's
some of it was the way Kyrie took it, but
Yeah,
somebody
Kyrie
posted a
that.
video of the move being performed properly, and it still doesn't work for me.
Doesn't look,
Even
it,
it's one of those moves that I say, who got the worst of that?
There's no reason to do a backpack if you're going to hit a DDT.
Right. It's just I realize we're talking about wrestling, and in the grand scheme of things, none of it makes any fucking sense.
Well, this is true. We throw somebody off the ropes to come back. You're absolutely right.
Right.
But in terms of a package of a debuting superstar, it looks bad.
It needed to be more impactful, and that was not impactful.
The most disappointing thing for me, and this is going to be controversial, and I mean no disrespect to anybody involved in any of this, but you know, as the more we've learned about Sasha Banks, we've learned that she is a big connoisseur of cannabis.
Yeah.
Good for her. She has apparently her and the former Kalisto, Samurai del Sol, have a very, very booming CBD line.
Your favorite wrestler, your favorite wrestler, Kalisto.
Hey, man. Hey, he's my favorite wrestler now because he doesn't wrestle no more. Good for him. Like, hey, but he got some hands though. He be fighting. He got some hands. I give him that.
I wouldn't call him out in a fight.
No, God, none of the lucha.
Hell no.
No.
But the disappointing thing to me was, and I don't begrudge anybody who wants to smoke, drink, whatever you do. I don't do it. Whatever you want to do is your life. Cool. But when you're in your field of work and your field of work involves you having the control of some type of machinery or something that could hurt another person, especially being a wrestler where you are in control of another person's body, she would, this is all assumptions here, but all of us know what someone looks like when they're high.
Yeah.
She was lit out of her mind.
Even Brett immediately co-signed it. She was zooted.
She was
and Jason is the resident.
Right. I'm halfway zooted right now, and I can tell you, she sounded like what I'm gonna sound like in about 2 hours.
100%. And so you know,
in that state, I shouldn't be doing DDTs or anything on anyone, including a stuffed animal.
And we know that her Boston accent is it's bad. It's very, very stereotypical Boston.
Not that bad.
Yeah.
It's not? Well, to me it is. I'm from Texas.
No. I'm saying it's not that bad the way she sounded that night.
It was way worse. It was like she had a drawl to it.
And I'll tell you guys, as someone who doesn't really have one unless they get intoxicated, much like many of my brethren around here. Yeah, guys, I'm sorry if this is controversial. She was fucking zooted.
And I'm not trying to make fun of her or talk badly about her or even criticize her. But it's disappointing to me because this is your debut to the world as this new character. And your fans are always going to support anything you do. You could have came out there in polka dots like Dusty or whatever you could have done. And your fans would have loved it. But as a person who... The Kenny and the Omega Ospreay match, people are saying is match of the year. I don't doubt it. Those two guys are amazing in the ring. Jay White is apparently possibly on his way out of New Japan. Come home, Jay. Big things happened. Muta as Keiji Muto had his big match, the triple threat. I mean the 6-man tag. Like big things happened. Hiroshi Takahashi won the junior title for like the 17th time. I'm being facetious, but only a little bit. Like big things happen in the night. But what the things that people will remember is Mercedes, and not only that, but Stardom and New Japan, or I guess I should say the parent company, Bushiroad, paid her almost Okada level money to sign. So for that to be your debut to the world, and I give her this, the look does not for me, but I know she looked like a star. Now, do I like that? No, but I'm not a woman. That's not something for me, right? But she looked like a star. She looked like somebody you would see, right?
Immediately a big deal.
100%. The package was cool, and then you get into the ring, you hold the title up, and then that happens, and then your first match isn't even until February. So it just seemed like such a disappointment for how it all went through. Otherwise than that, I don't begrudge her for following her heart. WWE isn't the be all end all. You can get the world has shown over the past 4 or 5 years you can get money outside WWE, and with her, wrestling money may be her supplemental income now, given all the other things she's involved in with being a member of the Star Wars universe and the CBD lines and all this stuff. So that's the case. Cool. Live your dreams. Be the queen of the territories. Whatever you want to do. But if you're going to do it, like, at least have some respect for the things you're doing. And I feel bad for Kairi because women couldn't even be on New Japan wouldn't even let women be on the show. And last year they had a match. They had 2 matches with Stardom. They weren't even televised. You only watch them on Stardom World. They went on the New Japan Wrestle Kingdom feed. This year they're on the main show defending the title. Nobody's gonna remember that match. They remember Mercedes coming out, and that's so disappointing to me.
Yeah, Rob, you got any thoughts on this?
Yeah. Well, okay. So as somebody, given who my favorite women's wrestler is, I've had a somewhat tumultuous relationship with Sasha Banks as a fan, because the Sasha crew, my favorite women's wrestler is like public enemy number 1 of the Sasha.
Sasha's one of those cases where the fans ruin the experience for you sometimes.
Yeah. Now, again, like y'all said, she always wanted to go there, so I don't, I figured this was going to happen in one way or another. Either she, it happened earlier than maybe we thought it would. Otherwise, she was always going to go there at some point. So, yeah, and, we wish the circumstances were better. I guess, I don't really ever take one way or another on how this thing went. I can see all y'all's points there. I guess I wasn't really, one way or the other. To me, that move it's one of those things that's a little too complicated to be doing, I think. But other than that, I mean, like, she looked great. And again, I wish the circumstances were better, but for one thing for sure, I mean, again, like I said, she was always going to end up there some kind of way. I do think that, this thing where they reportedly were going to basically ask her to lose to Ronda. I mean, that was definitely, I think, a last straw because, well, she wasn't happy. She wasn't that enthusiastic with the first go round of the Ronda Rousey experience. I mean, she's on record as, being like, man, what is this shit, right? So, I mean, and then she put Ronda over during that one. So, yeah, I mean, for them to ask her to do it again, yeah, I mean, it's not surprising at all that she was like, fuck this. And that, but, I hope that, I do hope that this succeeds for her because, look, I mean, people need to succeed. It's good for everyone if people do succeed outside of WWE. Mm-hmm. It's good because it's not going to work out for everybody there, or some people are never going to get there in the first place, right? So it's good if somebody succeeding outside of WWE is good for everybody in the business. Yeah, I am just kind of curious, just how's this going to go? She'll be fine when the bell rings. as far as the other aspects of it, how's that going to translate? She cut a very WWE style promo, in terms of like the cadence and all of that stuff. That's gonna have to, that's not what they do in New Japan. So I mean, we'll see what happens there. But I hope she does come back now. But nothing. Maybe eventually she will. I would advise everybody, y'all got to stop fantasy booking her being back next week, right? I mean,
are you talking about the AEW match? Yeah.
Oh well, I'm not even talking about that. I'm talking about come back. People still thought.
Oh, the WWE? Oh yeah.
And because look, folks, she has the big match in February. She's not working in the Royal Rumble. Okay,
that's and not then hopping on a plane and going back to Japan a
week
later.
If you're the promoter, would you wouldn't let her do that because you got a big match in February. You want her to get injured in a Royal Rumble match that she's not going to win anyway.
And I'm glad you mentioned that because for those people who think she's going to be, they announced Toni Storm's going to be Saraya or Paige's tag team partner in the tag match that's been booked for like 5 weeks. People swear that was going to be Mercedes. They've sworn from day one, right? Why, if you're New Japan, if you're Bushiroad, why would you sign her and let her first match as the new person that left WWE, as this new Mercedes Mone, be in a tag match in AEW instead of in your promotion?
Right.
Buddy, we are going to be, if we record on our normal night, we are going to be recording while that match happens.
Yeah.
Buddy, I have got a round in the clip for the internet wrestling community because they're all in on Mercedes Mone being the mystery tag team partner next week on AEW television when she is not. Buddy, I have a round in the chamber.
Well, so I'll say this. Wait until it's all over because I think she'll be there.
You think she'll be there?
I think she'll show up after the match. I don't think she's going to be in the
You don't think she's going to be the tag team partner? Okay, okay.
I totally agree with Ray. Now that she's in the wind, okay. She might show up and she might be there. She was never going to be the mystery tag team partner because A, Tony couldn't have kept that a fucking secret. And B, the other thing is, as soon as Mercedes shows up, or basically, I forget what the timing was, which happened first? Did Tony get revealed or was it Mercedes' debut?
Tony was revealed as the tag team partner a week or so ago?
No, just yesterday.
It was last night.
It was last night? For some reason, I feel like I've known that for like a week.
Okay, so now Tony went, okay, I have to prepare. There's two eventualities here. Tony said, okay, I didn't once hit at Mercedes Mone, and these people are going to be just swimming in disappointment if it's not her. So I need to tell them now that it is not her. Yeah. Obviously, it could be some sort of cover. I just don't think so. I don't know. Because number one, I want no part of the Sasha Banks Mercedes Mone AEW experience. I want no part of that whatsoever. I don't want the dentist anywhere near her. I don't want to listen to those promos. I don't want to, no, thank you.
I hope fuck it's Nia Jax.
This for Mortal Kombat.
I hope it's Nia Jax.
But seriously, I watched this shit for Mortal Kombat, not for Desperate Housewives. And not, we like a little Desperate Housewives once in a while in the, one segment on Raw.
Hey, but I like Desperate Housewives.
Desperate Housewives was pretty good.
That's not my form of entertainment that I enjoy.
Hey man, Wisteria Lane was popping, bro. I don't know what you're talking about.
That's true. But anyway, I just don't want to do the whole inside baseball thing that she'd do with the dentist.
And they will. They'll bring it up, and I'm not here for
they already did. She referred to herself in one of the promos last night as the boss.
Well, there you go.
Whatever.
There's a conversation that can be had about Britt Baker.
Yeah, we don't have to do that tonight. Right. I'm going to throw some 2 cents in here on the Sasha Banks thing. One, I think it stinks being a Sasha Banks fan. One thing that is positive that I'm taking from this is hopefully when Naomi comes back, Naomi will finally be able to shine the way Naomi should be able to shine, because through this whole thing for the last 6 months, it's been Sasha and Naomi. Sasha and Naomi walked out. Sasha and Naomi aren't coming back. Sasha and Naomi may go to New Japan. It's always been and Naomi, and now I'm ready for Naomi. And that's not a knock on Sasha. Unfortunately, just things being what they were. Sasha was ended up being the bigger star, but she was always Sasha first, Naomi second. Now you bring Naomi back. She's going to come back to a huge pop, and you ride that wave with Naomi, and Naomi finally gets her flowers.
That's why I say Charlotte, Naomi are Mania, man.
That's all. I mean,
I think so too.
Naomi. She loves Naomi. She respects Naomi. They've had great matches. They had a mini feud that didn't get the chance to be finished because of other things, mainly whatever it did with Naomi and Sonya for 6 months or whatever. It can work, and Naomi's gonna have bigger. She's gonna have bigger gravitas than she ever did. But let's just remember this: when she returned to the Rumble a few years ago, I don't think it was in Houston. I think it was the one before that. But whatever one she returned to, and got that big thing. Kiki Palmer was like, I want to play her in a movie. Like, yeah, it was this huge return, and she wasn't even hurt. She was just gone for a couple months. So, like, after this, come on.
Yeah, they've just had a star waiting to explode in Naomi for at least 6 years since she finally came into her own as a wrestler. Developed the glow persona, became more competent in the ring. Yeah, I would say the last 6 years they have been just sitting on a powder keg with her, and it's finally time to let her rock and let her shine.
Yeah, and it feels like that she got the stigma of being like the last of the Divas era, sort of. And
unfortunately, yeah, you're right.
It feels like feels like they lumped her in with that.
She got the Total Divas thing on her still, and I'm not saying stink in a bad way because Total Divas is dope, but like, yeah.
And so hopefully,
I hate that I want to fantasy book this because I don't feel like you should. Okay, she's gonna have this big return, and then she's just gonna be, side of these guys. But I very desperately want to see Naomi in the Bloodline simply because I want to see her flex those kind of muscles, those kind of like bad intentions, semi-serious, a little more serious, a little more violence, a little more gravitas. Like, I think she could really shine with that kind of stuff.
She touched on it in Team Bad very slightly.
She did.
And she started to touch on it with when she was partnered with Sasha when they were tag team champions. When she was sitting ringside with Michael Cole, and Michael Cole, with his whole chest, announced them as, the first Black women's tag team champions.
Say it again.
Say it again. She looked at him and said, say it again. And I'm like, that girl right there. That's the Naomi I have been waiting to see for 6 years, and she was finally there. And while I don't think I want to see her in the Bloodline because I want to see her do her own thing, I see the vision, Jason. I see where you're going with that because it will give her free reign to go out there and be the type of character that I know she can be.
You know who should be in the Bloodline?
I want her to show up and say and just prove through her character that she's taking orders. She's not taking orders from Roman. She's just kind of, I'm also here. I think she could establish that domineering personality where she's not, okay, yes, Roman's still in charge of the Bloodline, but he's not bossing her around, much like he bosses all the other boys around.
I agree.
She should walk that line.
Quick fantasy booking, just real quick. If you really want to give the Bloodline a woman and give someone something to do and elevate somebody like the Bloodline has done, put Tamina back in the Bloodline.
Yeah.
Right? She's a domineering personality. She's a powerhouse. The one character trait we know is she has an anger problem. She started with the Usos where they came in, and you can build her up, give her something to do, and you could have that Naomi Tamina feud eventually, where Naomi's the one person who didn't want to acquiesce, which is why she's quote unquote being gone. And you could see Jimmy was always the one who, him and Roman never really made up like him and Jay did. He didn't really acquiesce like Jay. That could be something, I don't know. Anyway, but adding a woman to the Bloodline can further that story like Sammy did.
Right.
Yeah. And let it keep going. And
nobody meaner than Tamina.
Exactly. And I don't mean it as that Naomi. I don't mean it to like demean Naomi in any way, shape, or form. Like, oh, just put her with her husband or just put her with her family. And,
Oh
you know,
God,
blah,
no,
blah, blah.
yeah.
They're like, if you do, like Sammy, she's going to take a center role for at least a couple of months.
And that's what it is. Being in the bloodline gives you a little bit more creative freedom to shine. It did that with Sammy. It turned Jey Uso into a fucking believable main eventer.
Yeah.
It's not. I'm not telling you. It's just going to be solo. Where all of a sudden you're here, you're the muscle, and you're going to be in some matches. Where it's you're here, you're the woman, you're going to be in the women's matches. No.
I won't drag you down that road tonight, but my God, we could have a whole conversation about Solo Sikoa.
Oh yeah.
Oh,
that dude has been a home run on every level.
Yeah.
That he's another kind of rocket. That's like, they're starting some sort of pre-flight check, not any sort of countdown, but a pre-flight check for that rocket.
Yeah. That kid's going to be fine. So we have gone long tonight. It's been an awesome show. Any last words, any parting thoughts before we get out of here, Mr. Cash?
Are you looking at me, camera? Come in close. Jay White, it's time, baby. It's time.
Come home.
We've been waiting long enough. This is your era. You've done everything you needed to do. You've main evented the Tokyo Dome multiple times. You sold out. Forget that Dastardly Okada. You sold out the Madison Square Garden. That was you, brother. You're the first man to ever be called the leader of the Bullet Club, right? It was a spokesperson before, but you're the leader of men.
And hey,
you know what you can do
right now? AJ Styles has got a broken ankle.
And also,
you got Gallows and Anderson right there.
Or
I'm just saying,
hey, if he wants to come down in a few months and slap around a couple of guys who called themselves the leader of the Bullet Clubs, hey, if he wants to spend a few months slapping each one of them around in succession, sign me up.
I just want you to know, young Jason, it's time. Come on.
Yeah,
we need you. You have been summoned. Your wife is American. She lives here. You live here already, bro. Come on. In fact, from what I've heard, you live in Tampa.
Oh, that's only an hour and a half away from the PC.
Come on, brother. Come on.
You're right in the backyard, man.
Come on. It could be your era, the era of the Switchblade in Titan Towers. Come on home. That's all I got to say, baby. Because when I heard that Jay White had a loser leaves Japan match with Hiko Leo, bro, I like to shit myself. Man, I've been trying to get Jay White to come home for like 3 years.
Well, maybe it'll happen. Maybe Hunter's the guy. You don't know.
Come on, man.
He and Cody can finally have their final battle for both leadership of the Bullet Club and the rights to the Crossroads Switchblade.
Jay would laugh in his face. Cody ain't no damn leader, no Bullet Club. Adam Cole was more of a leader of the Bullet Club than Cody Rhodes.
No, please. Adam Cole was that's like being the leader of Avengers West Coast. Ooh boy, Adam Cole. Yeah, but Adam Cole led the Ring of Honor Bullet Club.
He was the American leader of the Bullet Club. You're right. I'm saying I'm agreeing with you.
I wasn't a big Bullet Club mark, but I loved watching Adam Cole get stomped out of the Bullet Club. That was great shit.
By the way, he sold that amazingly.
One of the greatest segments in history, and I know we're not Young Bucks fans here, but the Super Kick Party when Adam Cole joined the Bullet Club and they super kicked everybody, the cameraman and fans in the crowd. That's one of the greatest things ever. I gotta say that's a fantastic segment. I'm done. Right. Jay,
well, before this turns into the Snyder cut of the Mindless Wrestling podcast,
I got 15 more minutes on Jay White.
Jason, you got any parting thoughts, sir?
No, I'm good. Thank you very much, gentlemen. This has been a great time.
Absolute blast. I think we all needed this after the last couple of weeks. The shoot bear of the Mindless Wrestling podcast, Mr. Rob. How are you, sir?
Good, and 14 times.
14 times. Rob is in bliss right now.
Sasha Banks is a coward. She ran. Sasha Banks
Oh my
wins.
God, he did it with Tony Storm. He's going to do it with Sasha Banks.
We traded Sasha for Jay.
Look, just
I'd say that's
Tony,
a trade.
okay, just like Tony Storm, Sasha Banks got run out of the territory by the 14-time women's champion.
He is going to be unlivable. Unlivable over this whole thing.
Oh,
All right. I am DJ. This is the Mindless Wrestling Podcast. Again, part of the Chairshot Radio Network. You can find us on the chairshot.com. You can also find us on YouTube, the Mindless Wrestling Podcast. You can listen to us just about anywhere that you listen to podcasts. Remember, you can call it pro wrestling. You can call it sports entertainment. You can call it whatever you want, but call it in the ring. And we're out of here till next week.